Indie Beacon Radio with hostess Denise Bryson. Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Welcome everyone to our radio show today, where we encourage everyone to drop everything you read. I am your host, Denise Bryson. And today I am excited to be interviewing our guest, Julie Hahn. She is the author of Savoring the Camino de Santiago. It's the pilgrimage, not the hike. Hi, Julie, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a retired Foreign Service officer. I spent 33 years working for the U.S. government, mainly overseas, but also at the Department of State and at the United States Information Agency in Washington, D.C. However, when it was time to retire, I chose to come back to Houston. And Houston was, I graduated from Rice University as an undergraduate and then from the University of Houston. And so it was a natural place for me to want to return to.
That's awesome. So what about your professional, you just told us about your professional background, but your book is about the Camino de Santiago. So can you tell the audience of what the Camino de Santiago is?
Yes, it's an ancient pilgrimage route. It started like in the 800s, so it's been around for more than 1,000 years. It was extremely popular in the Middle Ages. And then as time went on, and particularly into the 1900s, it lost a lot of popularity. But if you go back through history, some really famous people went on this pilgrimage. And the end point is Santiago de Compostela in northern Spain. And that is where St. James the Apostle is buried. And so the cathedral there at Santiago is over his tomb. So you can actually start your Camino, or your path, your way, your trail, anywhere in the world. But no matter where you start it, you're going to end up in Santiago. Now, my book is about one particular trail. It's called the French route, the Camino Francés. And it starts in France and then goes across northern Spain to Santiago, which is near the coast. And so it's in far northwestern Spain.
And now, was this a spiritual journey for you? I know it seems like that some people do it as like a spiritual journey, or was it just something that you just wanted to do? You wanted to make, it was something that you said, I just want to do this, and so you did it. What was it for you?
It was both. I first heard about the Camino when I was in my 20s and living overseas in Portugal, teaching English. And James Michener had a book he'd written called Iberia. It's all about Spain and Portugal. And he has a chapter in his book about the Camino. And as soon as I read that chapter, I wanted to do the Camino. But I was young and poor and I had to work. So I didn't make it. But that was 45 years ago. I kept it in my mind. And I finally decided after I retired, the first long trip I was going to do was the Camino, and that's what happened. Now, that's just wanting to do it because it's a great adventure and it's beautiful and it's all that. But during those 45 years, I had some things happen to me, which spurred me to think it was time to do a pilgrimage. So for me, it was very much both an adventure and a pilgrimage. And as my subtitle of my book says, for me, it was a pilgrimage. It wasn't, some people go just to have a long walk, like on the Pacific Coast Trail or the Appalachian Trail. This is the European equivalent of that, basically. So some people do it just for that. In the famous movie, The Way, if you've seen that with Martin Sheen and his son Emilio Estevez, one of the characters in there goes on the Camino because he wants to lose weight, and that's his reason for doing it. Mm-hmm. But in my case, it really was a pilgrimage. And I was myself wanting to grab some of the younger people who were racing along the Camino and say, slow down, slow down. You need to appreciate what you're seeing and what you're passing by. Whereas some of the young people, their goal is to walk it as absolutely quickly as possible and break the record for having walked it in a certain amount of time. That was not my goal at all. And I really don't think it should be anyone's goal, because there's
Right.
so much to see and do along the Camino.
Because now it's the route. The route is about 1,100 miles. Is that what it said, or was I reading the wrong thing?
The Camino, the French route, which is what I walked, is 500 miles.
Oh wow.
But that's one particular route. And I started right on the border with France. If I'd started in Paris or if I'd started somewhere else, it would have been longer, of course. Some people start way up in like Hungary or Czechoslovakia and walk all the way down through Europe and then to France and then to Spain. And there's as I said, there's a lot of different routes, famous routes. There's a route up from the south of Spain, which I hope to walk someday. So it really depends on where you start. The minimum you can walk to make it a real pilgrimage, according to the Catholic Church, is 100 kilometers. So some people start at a town called Sarria, which is a little bit more than 100 kilometers away from Santiago, and they just walk that segment of the Camino so they can get their certificate saying they were a pilgrim and so forth. So it really depends on how much time you have, how much interest, what you're going to do.
Wow, that's amazing. I bet it's beautiful. I just could imagine it being a very beautiful journey.
It is. The thing is, I had been to Spain many times over the years, but I always went to Madrid for work or because it's the capital. And I went south. So I saw Valencia and Cordoba, Sevilla, but I had never been ever to these northern Spanish cities. And there was a revelation to me. Cathedrals at Burgos and Leon are spectacular. There's no other way to describe them. And the Leon in particular, I have on my cover, you can see up in the bottom, the stained glass windows from the Leon Cathedral.
Beautiful.
They are as beautiful as anything you'll see at Chartres or anywhere else in Europe, in France, wherever. They're just spectacular. So I had no idea until I did this Camino. And now I want everyone to see them and not just go to Madrid and Sevilla and Cordoba, but go north, see the northern part of Spain.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then now, how was the walk? I mean, because you walked some, I know in your book you say you walked some, and then you sometimes may have caught the bus, and that might have been due to your son. And so what was that like, the walk, for all of that? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I originally planned to walk all the whole way, but I was going by myself. But then at the last minute, practically, my son decided to come with me. So that changed the character of the walk a little bit. It wasn't a solo walk. It was going to be mother and son walking. And that, of course, had its own advantages, spending a lot of time with my son, a joint adventure. But the route itself is not easy. You start out on one side of the Pyrenees and you have to climb up and over the Pyrenees on your first day.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty hard. And again, I talk about the movie because a lot of people have seen the movie. Emilio Estevez, who plays the son of Martin Sheen in the movie, he dies trying to cross the Pyrenees. That's how the movie starts, with the death of the young man. Now, I never felt in danger that way, but I did feel a lot of times in danger of slipping and falling. And that would have been a disaster too, because you're in the middle of nowhere sometimes, far, far, far from anyone. And I really don't know how they get out there and rescue people when they do have accidents. So by and large, the trail is safe. And by and large, it's manageable, but there are some tough parts of it.
Now, how long did it take you to get past that first day?
Well, you have to get over the Pyrenees in one day. There's actually two routes, the high route and the low route. The high route is the one that Napoleon's soldiers took to go over the Pyrenees when they went to invade Spain. So that's back in the 1800s. The low route is the one I took. If you give me a choice between high and low, I'm going the low route, and that's what I did. And even so, I thought, boy, thank goodness I didn't try to convince myself to go the high route. I wouldn't have made it.
That is amazing. I bet that was just such an awesome journey. But we're going to take a short break, and we're going to hear from our wonderful sponsors. So we'll be right back.
I'm Rox Berkey.
And I'm Charles Brakefield. We're award-winning co-authors, Brakefield and Berkey, of the Enigma book series. There are 10 books in the series, with book number 11 planned for release in January 2020.
Each story has a central technology focus ranging from identity theft to cryptocurrency and now AI wars. These adult techno thrillers pit cyber good guys against cyber thugs across the darknet.
In our world, technology is today's weapon of choice. You can enjoy ebook format, paper, or Audible. We want your feedback.
Until the next story, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, hello there, my friends. My name is Randy James, independent voiceover producer in the Dallas, Texas area, available to write and record a 30-second commercial, much like the one you're hearing right now. It's a great way to help increase awareness and exposure to your book title. It's easy to do. Simply call me and we'll brainstorm on a few ideas, and in a few hours, I'll whip something up and send you a digital file ready to use. Remember, call or text me, Randy James, at 214-762-1942.
Welcome to IndieLector.store, an online bookstore where the discriminating reader can find award-winning books. IndieLector.store is not a big corporation, so we can give up to 80% of the sales directly to the author. Help us support them by buying a great book at IndieLector.store.
Hello, I am the author and poet Denise Bryson. I am the author of The Things That Cross My Mind, Love's Reality, both in book and audio form. I am also noted as one of the best poets of 2011. I have two new projects coming up. One is the Blinky series, where Blinky tells us all about our coins and our bills for our children. I also have a book coming out called Say Ye. It's quotes from Denise Bryson, just inspirational and that will help you along the way.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Welcome back to the show. We have been interviewing Julie Connor, the author of Savoring the Camino de Santiago. It's the pilgrimage, not the hike. And so I've been enjoying just listening to her experience about her pilgrimage through the Santiago, through the Camino. That's what I say. But now, Julie, could you tell me a little bit about, did you study writing or did you take creative writing courses? How did you get into writing?
Well, I always knew that I could write from the time I was quite young, because my stories would be picked out to be published in a school newsletter or whatever. But as an undergraduate, I was a double major in English and history. And I actually dropped out of Rice University for 3 years for reasons that are kind of complicated. And when I came back to finish my degree at Rice, I did start taking creative writing courses under a professor named Max Apple, who was actually quite a well-known writer. And I really enjoyed those courses. And during that time, I sent one of my pieces into Mademoiselle magazine. And it won. I was a finalist in that competition. So after that, I got married. My husband was at law school at the University of Houston, and I thought, well, I'd better stick around Houston as opposed to going to New York or any of the other big publishing mega centers. So I applied to the University of Houston creative writing program, which at that time was quite small, and I was accepted. So I got my creative writing master's degree from the University of Houston. And I really thought I was going to be a writer, either a journalist, because I'd also taken journalism courses at Louisiana State University. Probably a journalist, I thought I would be. But my life took a sharp turn and I went a totally different way into the Foreign Service. But that also involved a lot of writing. In fact, I probably was accepted into the Foreign Service because I was such a good writer, because Foreign Service officers do so much writing. We have to. We're reporting back to Washington. So we're writing reports to Washington. We're writing speeches for the ambassador. We're writing briefing papers. We're doing all of that all the time. But of course, it's not for publication.
Right. It's more of,
internal government use.
Yeah. but still it's writing, but it's not the creative writing that you're gifted to do.
Right. Although my own talent, I think, is more on the nonfiction side.
Mm-hmm.
I've been wondering about that recently because if you look at any list of the top selling books, they're always fiction. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll try fiction just to see if I can sell a lot of books that way.
Well, yeah, but there are a lot of books that are good books that sell quite, sell that are big sellers too that are nonfiction as well. So people, they want to learn things about different things. They want to learn how to be better people and all these kind of things. So those types of books are really good. But now, how is your book structured? How is it structured?
My book is kind of a hybrid. It's both a memoir and a practical how-to guide for people who want to walk the Camino. When I went along the Camino, I saw so many things that I thought, if I had known this before I walked, I would have done a better trip. I would have had a better Camino. So I wanted to share that information with others, but I also wanted to tell my story. And one of the chapters in the book is actually a day-to-day journal of my trip, where I went from every day, what I saw, and so forth. And that was written while I was doing the walking. And then when I came back, I wrote the rest of the book around that central chapter, if I can say that. So my book starts out with the chapter where I went through this very traumatic experience as a young woman. And I realized that every day I had after that was a gift from God, because I could have easily have been murdered that night. So that was the first step towards me thinking I need to do a pilgrimage to give thanks for being spared. And then on through my life, other experiences that made me want to do a pilgrimage.
Now your book cover, that's amazing. Your book cover is quite colorful. So could you tell us a little bit about the book cover?
Oh, sure. I love my book cover. Here's the book cover up here in the corner of the screen. You can see it. And I knew I wanted some kind of mosaic. So I hired a professional graphic artist to work with me. I knew I wanted a mosaic, but I didn't know quite how to do it. So he came up with the framework, which I quite liked, just to have the title in that border and then my name at the bottom. And so he had places for 6 pictures plus the scallop shell, which is one of the symbols of the Camino. So he came up with pictures, but I didn't like some of his pictures. And so we started negotiating, and I told him, for example, I wanted the windows, the stained glass windows from the cathedral at Lyon. So he found this picture for me. And he started out with this picture I liked because the yellow arrow is a symbol of the Camino. And I really liked having something. But the problem is it shows walking. And if you look at most books about the Camino, they talk about walking the whole way or the importance of walking. And I don't feel that way. I don't feel you have to walk the whole way. I also really like this blue door because it has the shells, which are the symbol of St. James, and the walking staff. So those two I liked. Then I said, I want the stained glass. I wanted an alternate form of transportation. He found this photo of a bus in front of the cathedral at Santiago. And I wanted a food picture because when you're walking, food becomes very important to you. Where am I going to get my next, when's the next break coming? When am I going to have lunch? What am I going to have? And we had a bit of a tussle over that. He didn't want to put paella in that frame, but I said, fine, find something that will work. And everything he came up with didn't work, mainly because it's a cut-off picture there, so you can't get the whole thing in. So like it would be a half a jarra or pitcher of sangria. You couldn't tell what it was. So he finally, after trying several pictures, said, okay, I give up, we'll do paella, and that's what I have. So I really love my cover. I hope everyone else does. And as another
very interesting, yeah.
As another pilgrim says, when a pilgrim who's done the pilgrimage sees the cover, they know exactly what this is about.
Yeah. And then just from me reading it, and it took you, what, 49 days to get through is that how long it was?
The whole thing. And we didn't stop in Santiago. We also went the last little leg, which is to the coast, at what's called Finisterre, which is end of the world, end of the land. At that time in the early Middle Ages, they thought that was the end of ground. And so it was named the end of the earth.
Wow. So now, what about the illustrations in the book? How did those come about?
Well, that was another kind of little tussle. Originally, I wanted to have real maps. And we worked and worked and worked to try to get maps, and we couldn't find anything because the problem is we were just doing short segments, from one town to another town. And it's long and thin, and we just couldn't find anything that worked. So finally, I was almost ready to start publishing my book, and I still didn't have the maps. So I went to a friend and said, who's an artist, can you draw these illustrations? And she said, well, I'll give it a try. And she did. And I love the illustrations. They're very much in the spirit of the Camino. They're simple, they're easy to understand, and each day it has something that we'd seen that day, usually illustrated on the page, like maybe a donkey or a windmill or whatever. She would read the text of what we had seen and done that day, and then she would pick something to illustrate along with the route. So it shows that we went from Burgos to the next little town, for example.
Okay. Now, I know on Amazon you have a bunch of 5-star reviews, so so everybody's really talking about just how awesome the book is and just the different things they got out of it. But have you won any awards with the book as of yet?
Well, I am really happy to tell you that just last week I got word that I won a book, the E-Lit Awards. I got a silver medal. So it's specifically for the E version of my book, and it's for the overall excellence of the book. So it's not just the writing, it's the design, it's the cover, it's the layout, it's the illustrations, it's everything. And so as also the publisher of my book, I was really, really happy to get that award. And I think one reason I got the award for the ebook is that in the ebook, the photos are all in color. So it's so much more beautiful when you can see all these color photographs. For my paperback book, I wanted to publish in color until I found out how much it was going to cost me. And then I said, well, maybe we can live with black and white. So that's my first award. It's the first book I've published as a publisher, and they've got an award. So I'm really happy.
That's good. That's good. So we're going to take another break, and we'll go back and hear more from our wonderful sponsors, and then we'll come right back and we'll begin to wrap things up.
Hi, I'm Jerry Reedy, author of the book Heat in the Vegas Night. The book is a true inside story of a group of sophisticated blackjack players that take large sums of money from Las Vegas, led by one man, the boss, who trained a group of ex-college athletes from the Pacific Northwest to use a mirror to see the dealer's hole card in blackjack. The true story, stranger than fiction, is about casino espionage, teamwork, guts and determination, and courage. Find the book at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Target.
Thank you for watching or listening to Indie Beacon Radio. Our sponsor, IndieLector.store, is the only bookstore that pays authors their fair share for book sales. Help authors to succeed and enjoy a great book by supporting them at IndieLector.store. Enjoy a 10% discount with coupon code SHOPPER20 at IndieLector.store. Coupon valid until December 31st, 2020. That's IndieLector.store, coupon code SHOPPER20.
The 5th Annual Authors Marketing Event. 2 days of live seminars in marketing for authors. The only organization that certifies authors in marketing. Live and free to the first 100 authors registered. Sponsored by Bubblish, empowering entrepreneurs, and Indie Lector Store, paying authors for their fair share. Head to www.2020.authorsmarketingguild.com today.
What started as a love letter to her son has become an international love letter for all parents to their children. Now you can read acclaimed author Shanalee Charbonneau's story to your children. When her son was very sick, she calmed him by singing her own song to him. She turned that song into the book, My Mama Loves Me, I'm Her Little Boy. She wrote 3 more magical books for all parents and kids 6 and under. Available at Indie Lector, Amazon, and all local and national outlets.
Authors Marketing Guild is a membership-owned organization designed to help authors succeed and learn how to better market and sell themselves and their books. Join us at authorsmarketingguild.com and receive so many benefits you'll wonder why you didn't join sooner. That's authorsmarketingguild.com.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Hello, welcome back to our radio show where we have been interviewing Julie Connor, the author of Savoring the Camino de Santiago. I'm going to get it right before it's over. It's the pilgrimage, not the hike. So the Savoring the Camino de Santiago is the pilgrimage, not the hike. That is the name of the book. And we have been enjoying our conversation with her. And so now let me ask another question. As far as, did you find it easy to write the book?
For me, sitting down and writing is not hard. It's pretty easy. And I write pretty fast. But the hard part is actually during the sitting down, because I'm always interested in so many things and distracted. And so being disciplined about it, I wasn't very good about after retirement, besides which my house was flooded by Harvey, and I spent more than a year trying to get my house back together after my Camino. So I finally did for me what was necessary. I joined some writing groups, and then I had deadlines, and I'm very good with deadlines. So the deadlines helped me to, every time I had to present, I was writing a chapter for the book, and that helped me get the book finished.
Okay.
So it's not the physical writing, it's not the writing, it's the finding, it's setting the time and sitting down and writing.
Yeah. And so do you find that your time is better during the day or better at night, or this is a question I come up with my own. I just ask.
For me, it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about the publishing process, because you're a publisher, and so tell us a little bit about the publishing process.
Well, I kind of just fell into being a publisher. It was not one of my life goals or a plan. When I started working on this book, and I took a class at Rice University on publishing nowadays, and the leader of that class talked about the changing world of publishing and how so many people are moving to go with indie publishers or to self-publish, and that the whole landscape of publishing has changed. And then I investigated a lot and found out that if I tried to find a traditional publisher, like a New York publisher, we're talking about a 3-year kind of timeline between the time you find an agent, your agent gets your books placed, then all the work the publishing house does. I didn't feel I had 3 years to give to waiting to get my book published. So I said, okay, I'm going to do this myself. And I started out thinking I was just publishing my own book. And then a series of circumstances happened, including the fact that the house next door to me opened up. And I thought, well, I can have my offices in the house next door. And I just started a little publishing firm. So that's what I did. It was very serendipity, if I can say that. Everything just fell into place unexpectedly.
So then what's next for you? What do you have coming up? I know we're all on hiatus because of the coronavirus, but what else virtually do you have coming up? Let's say that.
I have another virtual appearance for Brazos Bookstore in June, and that's the next virtual appearance I have. I had planned to spend this whole spring promoting my book. I had some big speaking dates lined up, and I was really excited about all of that, and then it all fell through. So, because of coronavirus, I can't get out there and talk to people. I can't meet with groups and talk about my book. I can't have book signings. I can't do any of that. So I'm very appreciative of Indie Beacon for hosting me and giving me a chance to talk about my book. And I hope that things will improve and that I will be able to get out. But in the meantime, I feel like I've lost 5 months now of what should have been prime promotional time on my book.
Yeah. So then give us the ways that we can contact you on social media, your website for your Bayou City Press, and then also if you have any, what are you working on next?
Okay, so this is my little press, Bayou City Press, and you just type in BayouCityPress.com and you're going to get to my website. And I'm trying to be active on social media. I'm a little bit old to pick up these new tricks, old dog and new tricks. But I am on Twitter, I am on LinkedIn, I do have my Facebook author page, my Facebook page for the press, Bayou City Press. And I actually have a blog too, which complements my book. It's about the Camino. So between keeping up all these social media and working on my blog, I feel like I'm really busy. I don't have much time at all. But I did start another book, which is also going to be nonfiction. Although, as I said, I'm also really thinking I should turn my nonfiction book into perhaps a fiction book. We'll see how that's going. But for right now, I'm very engrossed with working on my blog and trying to get a little better at all these social media platforms.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you so much for being our guest on the show today. And so we have really been, I've enjoyed really talking about the journey of the Camino. So that's been really great. And I think it's an awesome book, and I hope that you do well with it. And I don't know, we just might have to do some virtual promotions, reading something a little bit to people, and maybe that'll help you to, to move it along since we're on our hiatus with the coronavirus. But anyway, it's been a pleasure to chat with you about your written masterpiece, and we look forward to seeing more from you because I think it's an awesome book. And so I would just like to remind all of our supporters and everybody that listens to this broadcast, please go out and support our authors. And so even though we can't get out and do the physical promotion, please go out and support them and read their book. I'm telling you, this is an amazing book, and this will take you on a journey mentally where you can look beyond where you are and get to see another side of the world and be able to inspire yourself to be able to go and do the same thing. So thanks so much, Julie, and we look forward to all your success in your writing. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website.
Indie Beacon Radio with hostess Denise Bryson. Indie Beacon Radio is produced by B. Allen Bourgeois for Authors Marketing Guild LLC, copyright 2020. Voiceover by Randy James, Lydia Bello, and B. Allen Bourgeois. To be a sponsor of the show or for more information, please email us at info@authorsmarketingguild.com. To be interviewed for the show, please complete the form at radio.authorsmarketingguild.com. Music Always Rejoice by Ramcord